Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to take a look at branding and the strategies for success, which means how do you ensure or hope to ensure that your brand becomes one of the most successful brands and you appear on that Interbrand website and you are the top 100 brands of the year. So make sure you get out your notes, your pen and paper, and you follow along closely. Sit back and enjoy. So first off, we're going to take a look back at what exactly a brand is. We're then going to take a look at successful brands, what makes them successful. And then lastly, we're going to look at the strategies that brands can use to improve their chances of success. So quick review. A brand. This is all about the identity a brand portrays to the consumer. This is all about the three senses, visual, auditory, and verbal, in which consumers respond to in terms of a brand. This is the name, the logo, and the slogan. Now, one thing that brands have to be careful about, even if they come up with a great logo, slogan, and brand name, they can still become genericized, which means they become so a part of our language that we fail to recognize the brand from the product. Kleenex, for example, you don't go and ask for a tissue, you ask for a Kleenex. If you're putting soup in a thermos, you're not putting them in a container in which keeps your soup warm or cold, you're putting it in a thermos. A yo-yo, aspirin, the zipper, the escalator, all of these are actual brand names. Companies put their brand name on these products, and yet they've become so a part of our language, they've become genericized. This can be good, but oftentimes it's bad, because you can't protect that brand name anymore. And so how do you ensure that your brand is successful? Well, let's take a look. So first off, the elements of an effective brand name. A brand name, again, portrays something to the consumer. And this projection is a bit of a promise. And so whatever you suggest in your brand name, in terms of the product benefit, you need to support that. So you have to keep that promise. It has to be memorable, distinctive, and positive. It has to stand out. It can't be like any other brand. And it has to portray that positive image. It has to fit the company or the product category. It can't be something wildly out there. It needs to make sense. Again, one of the things that you have to look at is the legal or regulatory restrictions. You can't infringe upon someone else's brand name. You can't copy their brand name. So you need to make sure that yours does not infringe upon that. You need to create a bond with the consumer, right? You walk into a store, you look for Coca-Cola. That's a bond that you have with that product. You will go and find that product and not another product. It needs to be short and simple. If it's too long, it's, again, not memorable. And lastly, again, the easy to remember. You need to make sure that it's memorable. You need to make sure that you can translate it well into various different languages for the international markets. You need to make sure that you can pronounce it easily and it's recognizable. So what are the elements of a successful logo? First off, it needs to be simple. It needs to be clean and uncluttered. You need to be able to absorb it. You need to be able to recognize it at a glance. It needs to be proportional. It should be no wider or greater than its height. So you think about it like a square. It needs to be able to fit on a business card or a billboard, so it needs to be proportional. You don't want a huge color palette. You don't want many different colors. That's too difficult to replicate. Legible fonts. They should be easy to read, clear, stand out, not too cursive. It should be practical, usable, and adaptable. Your font needs to appear on many different promotional media, so it needs to be able to do so. As well, it needs to be original. You don't want to compete with someone else who has a very similar logo, as well that again infringes upon some legal and regulatory trademarks. It needs to be able to fit within the industry conventions. Every single company has a logo, and that logo, I would say, probably fits with the rest of the industry. It needs to make sense. It needs to stand out, but it needs to fit within that industry convention. And lastly, it needs to capture the personality of the company. Every company has a personality. The logo should demonstrate that. So lastly, what are the elements of an effective slogan? A slogan should be 7 words or less. Think of it like a telephone number. Telephone numbers are 7 digits because that's the maximum amount that people can remember. So 7 words or less. It should state the brand name in there. It should tell the consumer what the company or the product does. It should be catchy and memorable, and it should carry a positive message. However, just because you take all of these elements into account and you develop your logo, your slogan, and your brand name, it still may not be as successful as it should be. So these are some strategies that one can develop in order to promote their product or their brand a little bit more, in order to become more successful. So support an existing brand. Develop brand extensions. license a successful brand, co-brand, or acquire a successful brand. These 5 we will now look at in detail. Now, if you remember the product life cycle, you'll know that brands will hit their growth point and then hit their mature point. At the mature level, you need to make sure that your brand doesn't dip down into that decline, and then you have to do a decision. So what you want to do is support your existing brand by changing it slightly, tweaking it, making it more current. So this might be new packaging. It might be that you try to appeal to a new target market. It might be that you change their advertising message altogether. Whatever you do, you want to keep it in the minds of consumers. You want to keep it relevant. You want to keep it up to date. It's easier to do this when you enter a new market because it's new, right? Consumers haven't had this before. In existing markets, consumers have a traditional perspective of your brand, and they're not so willing to accept these new changes and tweaks. So it's very, very difficult to support an existing brand in these ways, and only a few companies can do this successfully. Another way to improve your brand's success is to develop brand extensions. So what you do is you use an established brand, and then you create similar products or other brands using that brand to capitalize on that success. Frito-Lay is a great example of this. They have many different brands of chips. This is because they have an established brand in Frito-Lay, and they can use that to promote the success of other brands. They can branch out, if you will. Another strategy is to license a successful brand. So if you are a, let's say, car company, and you want to create a, let's say, line of running shoes, are you going to make those shoes yourself? I think you'd refer to someone who would be very good at making shoes. And so what you do is you license that brand to make your product. Put your logo on it as well. And now you have a successful brand, and you can branch out into various different products that you never would have before. Again, using an established or already successful brand to promote your brand. In co-branding, 2 brands combine or cooperate for their mutual benefit. So if you are in one industry and another brand is in a different industry, you team up in one location to co-brand. Tim Hortons and Cold Stone Creamery is a great example of co-branding. Cold Stone Creamery wanted more retail locations. Tim Hortons wanted new products, not just baked goods. Why not co-brand? More success. And the last way to improve your chance of success is to acquire other successful brands. Rather than co-brand or license or develop brand extensions, just buy them. Google has done this very, very well. They just gobble up all these other companies and products and make them a part of their family. So now they own all of these brands, and they can use their products with the Google brand. So now what you see is Google having all sorts of different products that can help them improve their own brand. Well, this brings us to our end of the video. Why is brand acquisition strategy an important one to improve a brand's chance of success? What is one brand extension strategy that was not successful? Why was this? So think about these questions, see if you can do some research to find this out. Make sure your notes are in order, you've developed your own discussion questions, and we will see you tomorrow.